Hey everyone, I'm coming to you with a video. I was inspired by some of the people that are making these truth videos to expose what happened to us melanated people all around the world. And so I came across this video about the Aryan invasion, and you have your Dravidian people, which I'm not a big history buff, so I'm learning a lot of stuff and seeing the pattern that happened to all of our lands all around the whole world, and how it was invaded by your Spaniards, your European people, your Indo-European people. Like I said, this is a lot of stuff that I'm just learning. So I would like to share this information with you of this Indian guy that kind of says the same exact thing that happened to us in our lands where we were at in America and all over the four corners of the earth, of this agenda, this Christian agenda, this religious agenda to overtake us and to pretty much put us in a form of control. So it is a 51-minute long video. I have watched it already, but it's some really good information. And then I'm going to go into who are the Aryans, which they're saying that they are Persian people, and they also are saying they are some people that were in Afghanistan. So you have your Arabian people, which we know, if you don't know about the Islamic slave trade. So they had a big part in enslaving or, overthrowing the melanated people, because everyone was Asiatic, Afro-American, Afro-Danish people, and I'm going to be doing more videos on it, because you have your Afro-Irish people as well. They were leprechauns, and I was researching some things during St. Patrick's Day, because I'm trying to expose all this paganism that we're, doing now, because we have to go back to our Creator. All this stuff that they put in front of us, it is only making our Creator mad, because he said he's a jealous God or whatever. I don't like really using that word, because it's a deity, so everything is like, you don't even know what to say, because they've made everything up. They've made all these words up. They've put in all this stuff and gave it to us. So I do know that this video, it was very informative, and when you hear it, you're going to see the agenda behind your church. You're going to see the agenda behind the religion. You're going to see the agenda behind everything, and it is white supremacy. I mean, it is what it is. I didn't want to accept that that's what's going on, but this is an Indian person over, where they do the Buddhist people, and where the Hindu people overthrew your Dravidian people. And I'm going to go into a little video. I got some couple of short videos that explain the difference between your fake and your real, which you see all over the whole world today. You have your fake native people, and then you have your real native people, which the same thing is going on today, even in America. So I'm just going to get into this video. Let me see, how do I do it? Oh, wait a minute, I gotta go here, because I never shared what I watched with people, but I saw Lex do it, and Hiriam, Art, and Ezekiel 37. I don't think he shared his screen, but these people are seeking truth, and so it's time to expose. So here you go.
Is the Aryan invasion theory true? What is the theory? What are the problems with it? And what are the implications of this theory for Indians and for spiritualists in general? Answer. Let's look at this one by one. these questions involve a significant amount of technical knowledge of history to resolve properly, and we will not go into too much technicalities of history, but certain terminology, certain pre-existing knowledge of history will be helpful. So I have made a summary of around 14 points adapted primarily from a very respected book on Hinduism called The Survey of Hinduism by an eminent Hinduism scholar, Klaus Klostermaier. So I will explain the theory, and as we go over the points which problematize the theory, we will discuss the further details of the theory and how those points problematize that theory. So essentially, the theory is that India in the past was inhabited by primitive people called the Dravidians. And at some particular time, historians say that it was around 1500 BCE or sometime before that, roughly in that period, there was an invasion of a group of people primarily on horseback, a nomadic tribe called Aryans. And then there was a battle. In that battle, the Aryans defeated the Dravidians, and the Aryans imposed their culture. And what has grown in India, which is today called as the Hindu culture, is largely, according to this theory, the culture that has been imported by the Aryans to India. So this sort of theory, what is this? Why did it come about? And what was the utility of such a theory? Basically, when the European imperialists, those who wanted to establish European supremacy over the planet, started coming to India. The French came, the Italians, the Germans came, and eventually the British came. So when they came to India, they wanted to rule India for commercial gain and also for a religious gain. Commercial gain meant that India was a land rich with resources, and they wanted to use those resources to boost the economy of their country. Eventually, in that battle between various countries, Britain won out, and Britain gained control over India. And the British economy flourished based on Indian resources for a long time. And along with that, Britain, Germany, France, all these were Protestant countries. From the 16th, 17th century on, in that period onwards, Europe had been split between two major religious denominations of Christianity: the Catholics, who were the original holders of Christian authority, and the Protestants, who headed by Martin Luther, Dan Calvin, and other thinkers, led to the Reformation. And then the Christianity split, and there was a 100-year war between the Catholics and the Protestants. So Italy, Spain remained strongholds of Catholicism. And eventually, when things became stabilized, with Europe geographically divided according to theological lines, then both groups decided to expand their influence, religious influence. So the Protestants decided to evangelize the rest of the world. Evangelize means convert to Christianity. And they sent their ships primarily eastwards. And they came to India. And of course, some ships from the Protestants also went to America to rule America. And the Catholics sent their ships largely to South America, towards the west, towards the southwest, basically. And then that's how the Catholic Church got rule over Mexico and other countries in that area. And anyway, when the Britishers came to India, they had a clear intention of also Christianizing India. So when these European invaders started coming to India, they found that India had a far more advanced civilization than what they had expected of the primitive pagans. Pagan is a term used by the Christians to refer to non-Christians. It's a derogatory term, which basically means faithless, idolaters, those who worship idols, polytheists, those who worship many gods, and even atheists. So it's a blanket term, refers to anyone whose belief system differs from the Christian belief system. So the Europeans expected the rest of the world to be uncivilized, barbarous, and primitive. But when the Europeans came to India, they found that Indian literature especially exhibited tremendous depth in terms of the vocabulary, in terms of the grammar, in terms of the use of figurative language, in terms of the artistry. And indeed, there are initial Sanskrit scholars. Some scholars came and they started studying Sanskrit to understand Indian literature. Of course, eventually their goal was to convert, to rule. But when they started studying, there are Sanskrit scholars who said that the discovery of Sanskrit was the discovery of a new continent. And the European superiority complex could not tolerate the idea that an entirely unknown civilization, different from our civilization, has existed for so long, and it is equal to, if not greater than, our civilization. So in order to somehow integrate the greatness of, the undeniable greatness of at least the Vedic literature's language into the current known history. So many times when we find something new, we try to fit it somewhere into our mental cupboard to try to make sense of it. But to change our mental cupboard itself, because what we have learned new is so radically different from what we previously know, changing the mental cupboard requires a huge amount of effort. And not many people are ready to do it. So the same was true of these European imperialists. And in order to fit the greatness of Indian literature especially in their pre-existing mental framework, they tried to come up with different ways. One of the striking things was that Sanskrit was remarkably similar to Latin and Greek, which were the two primary languages of Europe. So now Europe was, of course, Christian. Before Christianity, there was a Roman civilization. Prior to that was the Greek civilization. And these two countries, these two empires, they used respectively Latin and Greek languages. So now, seeing the similarity between Latin and Greek on one side and Sanskrit on the other side. Now, of course, Sanskrit had a better vocabulary and a richer grammatical and artistic structure than both Latin and Greek. So, trying to find out how the similarity had come about. Given Sanskrit's later literary richness, one could have postulated that Sanskrit was the source of Latin and Greek. But this idea was intolerable for the European ego, that these pagans are the source of our greatness. So, because they could not deny the greatness of Sanskrit and the literature of the pagans, they tried to attribute the glory somewhere else. And they said that both Greek and Latin and Sanskrit have come from some other ancient civilization. And they call it the Proto-Indo-European civilization. They call it Proto-Indo-European, PIE. And it got the name Āryān eventually. And they said that there was some civilization which is the parent of both these civilizations. And that's how the similarities between these two languages are explained. And so primarily this theory originated from linguistic conjecture. Linguistic conjecture that from the two languages, similar to two languages, there was a language which was originally the source of both these languages, And naturally, that language must have been sophisticated to give up rise to two of these language branches. And therefore, that the people who spoke this civilization must also have been advanced. And once this theory came up, the European ego could be secure that these pagans were not our source. And it also served another purpose. Like Europeans felt that, in general, Britishers especially, they felt that our country is much more comfortable and much more civilized than India. And that's why, although British imperialists came to India to rule India, they did not look forward to the idea of living in India. And moreover, Britain's population was very small. So for a large number of Britishers to come to India to rule India was not practical. This is in contrast to the Muslims. When they came to India, they came in significant numbers. They started coming from around 1000 AD. And then when they, CE as it is called, current area. So they started coming, and then eventually, of course, the Muslims converted by power of sword also. But a large number of Muslims occupied India. And through the help of these large number of Muslims occupying India, Muslims ruled India. So, of course, they had the Hindus. Of course, the word Hindu was not there at that time. But those who were of the native Indian culture, they helped them. At least some people and some places helped them, because of there's no alternative apart from cooperating with the rulers. But the number of Britishers who came to India were not that many. So for the British rule to survive in India, they needed cooperation from the Indians. So this Aryan invasion theory came in as a very convenient intellectual tool for garnering the cooperation of Indians. Because the idea was that we are like long lost brothers. Now we are descendants of the same family who got separated for many, many centuries, many millennia in fact, and now we are united. And we Europeans have developed an advanced science, advanced technology, and we are in many ways better than you, but we want to share these with you. You develop and you help us rule. So it was quid pro quid, give and take. And this idea appealed to Indians, especially the educated Indians, by Western culture. Even at that time, West did not refer to Europe or to America, it referred to Europe. And by the West, they were enamored to some extent, and they started cooperating. So to get the Indian masses to submit to British rule required a buffer, intermediate class, which would act as the via media, as the conduit for British rule to be imposed on Indian masses. And that was the educated Indian class. It was called as the Bhadraloka. And these were the people who were won over by various ways, and one of them was through the theory of the Aryan invasion. And we are long lost brothers, and we are reunited, and we will help you now. So that's why Indians cooperated with the British rule for a long time. So it was essentially a convenient.
I'm gonna pause it right here for a second. You hear what they said? He said that they were all brothers, and the Indians being the good-hearted people sounds just like what happened in America, how the Native Americans of the land of America were overthrown by the same people, pretty much, you know, because they're all the same. And so we see the kind-heartedness is that's what happened. And I just want to just point that out. It's the same exact story that happened to our ancestors, that happened over in America. So I'm going to continue on and let it play. It's very interesting, though.
Linguistic conjecture that not only protected the European superiority complex, but also enabled European rule to become solidified. So, as well as Devamrit Maharaj talks about this elaborately in his book, Searching for Vedic India. And he explains how initially there was effulgent, there was very uninhibited, genuine, effusive appreciation for the glory of Indian literature. But later on, this became toned down because of imperial motives. And gradually, the imperial motives won out. And the Aryan invasion theory became an official dogma. So actually, the whole theory has grown from linguistic speculation. And that is unsubstantiated. Now, how can one possibly know which language came from which language based on empirical evidence? To build up the whole idea of an entire civilization itself is remarkable. Now, it was faced with the Aryan invasion theory from its beginning has been faced with three questions: who, when, how. So who were the
Sorprende a tu familia con un sabor tradicional.
Are you serious? Hold on, I didn't even know that it was going to be.
Prepara estos frijoles para una bandeja paisa colombiana.
I don't have time for that. Come on now.
how. So who were these original civilization? Oh, actually, if you look at the world over, now, no matter how speculative the process of history are, for the historical archaeological findings, to miss out an entire civilization that has existed not in the remote prehistory, but just around 4,000 years ago, 3,500, 4,000 years ago, is extremely unlikely. It is in fact historically untenable or indefensible that the whole civilization could have been missed out. So if the supposed Aryans were there, where did they exist? Where did they live? And then the question comes up, when did they come? Now this theory has been repeatedly problematized, and whenever historical problems have been proposed.
And so I'm appalled because I researched about these Aryans. The Aryans, they said, like I said, they said they were your Persian people. So these are like your Afghan people. These are your Ishmaelites, according to the Bible. These are your Ishmaelites that came from Abraham's maiden Hagar. So Ishmaelites were mixed with Arabian blood, Middle Eastern, Persian, and all that stuff. And I have a video that I'm going to show when he's done. That's going to give us a bit of an explanation. Of course, all of this is theory, but everybody's starting to see that this is true. So if he has a theory, it's other theories out there, but we do know that these are some type of Middle Eastern people that came in that was with cahoots with your British people, your Spaniard, your French, and all of them. They're all the same, the Greeks and Romans, and to overtake the world. So we're going to continue on. Hold on, I didn't want to do that. Why did I do that? Hold on a second. Because it's still saying about the that is going to tell you who the orange is, but I don't want to play that yet. And then the music really got on my nerves too.
Indefensible.
Okay,
That the whole civilization could have been missed out. So if the supposed Aryans were there, where did they exist? Where did they live? And then the question comes up, when did they come? Now this theory has been repeatedly problematized, and whenever historical problems have been proposed, the date has been adjusted again and again to somehow try to defend the idea. And how? From where did they come along? So originally the idea was they came from North India, from somewhere in the Caspian Sea, or then they came somewhere from Europe through Turkey area. Now, each of these scenarios is problematic because, first of all, Chinese civilization itself has been existing for a very, very long time. And certainly the Chinese race is quite different. Language is quite different from the both Greek, Latino-Greek and the Sanskrit. There may be some similarities, but there are substantial differences. So China is definitely not the source. Now, if some whole race had come from somewhere beyond China, through China, there would have been records of this by the Chinese historians. And that the whole race would come and influence a whole continent of India without influencing China at all. That seems entirely untenable. So if they didn't come from China, then where did they come from? And the idea is, okay, they came through Turkey, through what is Afghanistan, and that area. But historians have found that, now we are on the second point. First is the unsubstantiated historical conjecture. The second is that other kingdoms were already in place. That means that now if we see in Western Asia, by the time of 2200 itself, and from that time onwards, the area of Anatolia, that is Western Asia, was already ruled by a group of people called the Hittites. And then the Kassites and the Mitanni, they were another race who had already got their kings and dynasties set up by 1600. So for a massive invasion to take place, they would have to fight against those kingdoms and penetrate through it. And certainly there's no evidence for any such penetration, because those kingdoms had been existing and they had stabilized themselves. They had not become damaged because of some invading race breaking through them. So from where they came, how they came, and when they came, all these are very problematic questions for which there are no satisfactory answers. Now, further, another problem with the Aryan invasion is that there is irrelevant literature. So now traditionally the traditionalists date the Vedic literature to 5,000 years ago at the start of the Kali Yuga. Modern historians consider the Vedic literature as progressive, first the Vedas coming and then the Upanishads and then the Puranas and like that. But either way, even if we, for argument's sake, accept the point that the Vedic literature are not 5,000 years old, but have been progressively written over the centuries, still there is no reference to any such invasion in any of the Vedic literature. A large-scale invasion is nowhere documented, nor is it, what to speak of the Vedic literature, it is not documented in any of the literature. It is not documented in the Buddhist literature, nor the Jain literature. Now, the supposed invasion and this happened about 1,000 years before Buddhism or Jainism came about. And surely something that 1,000 years is not a very, very big time. And surely some documentation would have been there. And even in the Dravidians, the people who were supposedly overpowered and destroyed, even they have not kept any accounts. And certainly if the Vedic Aryans who came to India and they ruled India, they brought the Rig Veda with them. So if they had done this, then surely we may say that the Dravidians were losers and that's why they did not preserve the record of their loss. Actually, that doesn't always make sense. Losers may preserve the record just so that they can have a sense of the loss and the desire to kindle the desire for protecting one's rights and maybe gaining revenge. Now, Jews have kept the memory of Holocaust so fresh repeatedly. So that the Dravidians have no historical memory of this is remarkable. But certainly victors want to keep track of the memory that our country conquered our race conquered such a huge country. You know, Alexander, most kings would travel with historians, and they would ask them to note down, okay, what I did, what all I conquered. And these are the pride of a race. So if the Aryans supposedly come and conquered India, then wouldn't they have kept track of their conquests somewhere in literature? No such literature, in none of the relevant literatures is any reference found to such a conquest. Now, of course, some critics of this theory try to soften the theory by saying it's not Aryan invasion theory, it is a migration theory. That gradually, gently, in a trickle, the Aryans came to India, and then they united, and then they dominated. But again, the softer version also relieves the questions: how did they come? From where were they? When? From which path did they come? And why is there no record of this? Certainly, if the Aryans influenced the whole Indian culture, then there would have been some record of it in somewhere at least. So there's no reference in the relevant literature. Now further, there's a cultural continuity. Now, according to current ideas of Indian history, there are various ancient civilizations, Mohenjo-daro, Harappan civilization, and some other artifacts have also been found at different places. Now, if you look at the Mohenjo-daro and Harappan, their scripts seem to be slightly different from the Devanagari script that is used in the Vedic Sanskrit literature. So now, variation of script itself does not prove anything major. There is the Brahmi script and there is the Devanagari script. Script refers to way a language is written. So now the Harappan and the Indus Valley, the Mohenjo-daro, Harappan, these are all often called as a part of the Indus Valley civilization. Some people call it the Indus Saraswati civilization, because the Saraswati is also an important river, and earlier it was thought of as mythological, but now it has been found to be historical. American space scans have found below the Rajasthan desert the remnants of a very vast river, and they have found not just the remnants of cities on the banks of the river, but remnants of cities on the bed of the river also. That means the civilization was there initially when the river was there, and after the river dried out, the civilization continued in the river bed, but eventually, because of lack of water supply or whatever, the area where Saraswati flew eventually became the Rajasthan's Thar desert. So the point is, this civilization of the Indus Valley Harappan civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, there are some differences, but there is also significant cultural continuity. The religious ideas, the art, the craft, the architecture, even the same system of weights and measures, they are similar. So normally, if one country comes up and one race comes and rules another race, then often they want to impose their cultural ideas. So for example, they might bring their own currency. They might want to use their own systems of weighing. They might want to, for example, India, when Britishers came to rule, the currency became different. The measures, because India had to interact with the government, the invaders are unlikely to want to learn something which the conquered people are doing. They would want the conquered to learn our ways. So there is a continuity which is there, which should not have been there if the land had been overpowered by the invaders. So there is practically no sign of a sudden transformation that happens in the culture. If not a sudden, at least a gradual transformation, but there's a large-scale cultural continuity that is there. And that also seriously puts a serious question on the credibility of the Aryan invasion theory. Beyond that, we can look at, so cultural similarity with respect to, it refers to the way people lived, how they measured, how they counted, how they thought, how they had their arts and crafts. Now, one of the significant ways in which we can know about the past is through architecture. So we can look at the architectural remains. So now there are many architectural remains which have been discovered, and one of the most significant Neolithic architectural findings has been at Mehrgarh. And this Mehrgarh finding has been dated by historians to be around 7000 BC. Now, of course, parts of Mehrgarh have been said to be later also, but there are at least some parts of Mehrgarh which are clearly 7000 BC. So now this is something which is remarkable. And what is remarkable about it is that not only was a whole advanced architectural structure there in 7000 BC, so this problematizes the idea that Dravidian civilization was primitive itself. But along with that, it also makes it a significant factor that the Mehrgarh remnants are very similar to what are later found in the Saraswati civilization, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and others. So there are very great similarities. So there is use of copper over there. There are mention of cattle. There is use of barley. So metal, animals, and food. These are primary markers of the kind of civilization. So there is a continuity from 7000 BCE through the Indus-Saraswati civilization through the later part when supposedly the Indians had come in, the Vedic people came in and they ruled India. So there is a continuity. This is also a serious problem. And then the missing horse is no longer missing. Now the whole idea was, one question comes up, how did these Aryans, who whatever be the number in which they came, how were they able to overpower and conquer a whole country as big as India? So one of the theories was that they were horse riders. And they came on horses, and because of that they came so fast that the traditional Indians, who were supposed to be the Dravidians, they could not defend against the speedy horse riders. And to support this idea, it's pointed out that in the archaeological findings, which are considered to be native Indian archaeological findings, there is no evidence of a horse anywhere. So in the archaeological remains, because the horse was not found, so the native Indians were supposed to be not knowing about a horse, or they did not know about how to domesticate a horse and how to ride a horse. And this horse riding people came and they defeated them. Now this was considered to be one of the arguments in favor, but subsequent research has found that there are references to a horse, but remains of archaeological research has been going on, and in Harappan and pre-Harappan sites. Now Harappan and Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, these sites are supposed to be the sites of the native Indians, not of the Aryans who invaded, the Vedic Aryans. So let's get the terminology clear. Native Indians roughly equate to the Dravidians, and they were the people who live in India, and the Aryans, or the Vedic Aryans, they're the people who invaded. So because there is some dissimilarity between the Harappan civilization, between the Indus-Saraswati civilization and the literature and what is described in the Vedic literature. So it's thought that these two are different. Now the differences are not huge. We see in a vast land like India, there could have been differences present within the country itself. The differences need not have been something which have been imported from outside. But assuming that the differences were still there, the point is that in the what are considered the native Indian sites,
En la feria de acabados Coches, ven y aprovecha nuestra gran variedad de opciones a excelentes precios desde el 21 de abril al 3.
I'm in another country, y'all. That's why.
In the what are considered the native Indian sites, there have been archaeological findings of horses. So the horse is not considered any longer missing. And they have been found even in the Paleolithic caves in central India. So I'll not go into the technical dating term Neolithic or Paleolithic, but suffice it to say that the idea that the horse was unknown to the native Indians is now no longer a tenable theory. And if there were horse-drawn war chariots, these are not typical of urban, of nomadic breeders, but they are typical of urban civilizations. So the whole point is the supposed victory of the Aryans over the Dravidians, and the idea of the Dravidians not knowing horses is no longer tenable. Now another point is that if there were different races entirely living, then there are significant differences in bodily structures, and especially in terms of facial structures. So if we look at, when we look at a certain person, the person is Chinese or Japanese, their faces have certain structures. Indians, their faces have certain structures. I'm just giving a very simplistic explanation, but phrenology, the study of skeletons, is itself a huge branch of knowledge. And now if we look at the racial diversity within India, India itself is so vast, and if we look at the people in North India, Northeast India especially, Nagaland, Mizoram, Assam, we look at people in Kashmir, we look at people in South India, we'll find that their skulls are different. there is a racial diversity within the pan-Indian population even today. And actually, a similar racial diversity has been found in the archaeological remains of ancient India. So there is a, that means even if you go beyond, before the so-called Aryan invasion, the similar archaeological diversity has been there. And that indicates that no new race has been added. A new race would have its own skeletal structure. And there is no evidence of a new skeletal structure coming in at any particular time. Then beyond that, if we look at the content of the Rig Veda itself. Now, the Rig Veda is supposed to have been brought by the Aryans, who invaded India along with them. And these were nomadic tribes. Now, they came on horses, and it was not just one or two of them came as messengers. There's a whole civilization that came. That means there were families who came, kings who came, and they brought their populations with them. So they could not have come slowly. I mean, they could not have come very fast. And it's normally not possible, historically well known, that those civilizations are nomadic, which keep traveling. They are so busy in struggling to maintain themselves. Okay, new place, where will we get food, where will we get water, how will we build our dwelling, who are our enemies, who are our friends over here, that they are so caught up in the practicalities of living that deep reflection is rare to find in nomadic tribes. Now, the Rig Veda contains astronomical references. For example, it says, okay, so in the Rig Veda, when the Rig Veda is composed, it is described that, okay, this particular archaeological astronomical formation was there, this star was here, this planet was here, and this was like this. So now when we look at all these, we can, by today using computers, find out whether such a time actually existed or not. And it has been found that the kind of findings that have been described in the Rig Veda, they have happened in the vicinity of 2500 BCE. So that means the sky, as was seen by the Rig Veda, in the Rig Veda times, was the sky that was in 2500 BCE. That means when the Rig Vedic people wrote this, by that time itself, they had such an advanced civilization with such advanced astronomy by which they could actually describe astronomical references. They could note them and they could understand and comprehend them. So these are done according to the Pleiades Kritic calendar. This is a particular calendar notation system. And such sort of advanced astronomy is again not a feature of nomadic culture. What this means is that the Aryans, far from being a nomadic tribe which came to India, are far more likely to have been a tribe resident at a particular place. And as there are similarities between the characteristics described in the Veda and the characteristics found in Indian culture, so it could very well be inferred that the Aryans were living in India itself. So the Rig Veda was composed in India, not somewhere else, and brought by the horse riders into India. Now, one of the evidences that is given in support of the Aryan invasion theory is that there are records, archaeological remnants of several cities having been destroyed. So now this destruction is attributed to the invasion of the Aryans, who fought and destroyed the cities. But subsequent research has found out that this destruction was not due to an invasion, but was due to desertification. Desertification means actually the Indus and Saraswati rivers were the primary rivers which irrigated India. But the Saraswati river dried out because of geotectonic upheavals. That means the earth's surface changed, topographical changes, and even the course of the Indus river changed. And because of that, the people who were living where the river water was flowing, they had to leave. And actually, this is substantiated. Now, Strabo was a famous historian at the time of the transition from BCE to CE, and he wrote in his classic book called Geography that Aristobulus, who was a historian who accompanied Alexander when Alexander came to India, he describes how when they were traveling along, they found thousands of villages and towns that had been deserted because the river had dried up, because the river had changed its course and the previous riverbed was dry. People cannot live without water. And that's why if the water source is no longer available, people leave. Just forced to leave. So now, the idea of destruction of cities, which was used to support the theory of invasion, also does not support that theory. Now, there was also the advanced architecture prior to the supposed invasion. So now Dwarka findings have been made, and actually the findings in Dwarka have led to the discovery of sites that are larger than Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro was considered to be a very significant site. Now the Dwarka findings, they are dated to at least 1500. Now, from the traditional point of view of the Vedic followers, Dwarka was ruled at around, Krishna was ruling Dwarka at around 3000 BC. But Dwarka was itself described as a very big city. And what we have found out on Dwarka can be one level. And if we dig deeper, we explore deeper into the ocean, we will find further levels of Dwarka. So anyway, the point is that marine archaeology has discovered a very significant site. And this has also characteristics similar to the other existing sites. And there is a script that is somewhere between the Harappan and the Brahmi. So now there were basically three scripts, the Brahmi, Harappan, and Devanagari. So now if there had been cross-fertilization, that means people have interacted, then you could develop a script which is an approximate between this and that. So the Dwarka script, that means whatever has been found written in Dwarka, how has it been written? That script is somewhere between Harappan and the Brahmi script. And now it's well known that the Dwarka finding is associated with Krishna, because seals with the name of Keshava and with signs of Krishna and Balaram have also been found. So this also indicates that this particular city, which is at least 1500 BC, which is supposed to be the time when the Aryans invaded India. Now this city has an architecture which is similar to the architecture and the other feature which are similar to what was there among the native Indians. And yet this is undeniably associated with the Vedic Indians. So that means we see similarity between the supposed invaders and the invaded. So both are similar, so inferences that both are a part of the same civilization, not of different civilizations. And again, there is continuity in scripts. So the scripts have particular, as I said, scripts refer to the way languages and the words and letters in them are written. So among these three scripts, Brahmi, Devanagari, and Harappan, there is in their morphology. Morphology means the way they are written, the physical structure of morphology. There is continuity. It's not that there's a radical difference, which again indicates that it was not that one script was of the invaders who came from an entirely different place, and another was of an invaded who had no connection with the invaders previously. No, these are similar scripts which could have been, by logical inference, the scripts of those people who were living in neighborhood and they were aware of each other. So there is no radical discontinuity which would have been, which would have happened if there was invader and invaded interacting. If one script belonged to the invaders, the Devanagari belonged to the invaders, and the Brahmi and Harappan belonged to the invaded. That has not happened. Further, there is long Puranic dynastic lists. So now the Puranas describe kings who go back 120 kings in one Vedic dynasty alone. Now, for example, in the Bhagavad Purana, in the 11th canto, there's a list of 12th canto. There is a list of kings who ruled when, and not only the 12th canto, even the 9th canto there is a list. And now, although these lists, all of these lists cannot be substantiated, but still the point is that some of these kings are known to be historical. And there is no mention in any of these that there was any discontinuity. This list goes on till the 3rd millennium BCE. And in fact, there were Greek historians also who came to India, and they visited India and they looked at India. And they describe, for example, Alexander invaded India. So they in their historical account, they describe that there are histories of kings in India, lists which go up to the 7 millennium BCE. So again, the point which is proven over here is now that these lists of the Puranas, which are describing the rulers, there is no discontinuity. This list, the Puranas are of course a part of the Vedic body, after they evolved later on. But if they had been written by the invaders who came, then they would not have described that, oh, we have been ruling this country for thousands and thousands of years. They would have described, oh, we came from there and we ruled here. But these kings describe that, this list described that the kings of this dynasty have been ruling this land for century after century after century, and for millennia after millennia, going far back. So again, no support for the idea of an invasion. And then overall, the Vedic culture, which is described in Rig Veda, is too advanced. If you look at Sanskrit itself as a language, it is not an easy language to learn. To learn Sanskrit systematically sometimes requires 12 years. If one wants to go deep into it. And to write poetry in that language is by no means easy. So that is not the attribute of a nomadic culture again. So there is a huge mismatch between the level of civilization attributed to the Vedic people, and that means they were nomads, and the product which this civilization brought about, the Rig Veda and the other Vedic literature, which are by any standard sophisticated literary products. So in this way, there's a huge mismatch is there, which again is like the death knell for the Aryan invasion theory. And to conclude, further, the idea that there was a national historical amnesia. And yes, there was a gigantic invasion, but both the invaders and the invaded forgot about it. This is an absurd idea. Such a thing has never happened in history. And actually, if we look at the history of the Abrahamic religions, in that they describe about Abraham and his people and how they were persecuted and how they traveled everywhere, different places, and then how Moses took the people from Egypt, and after a dangerous journey, they eventually found a home in the Middle East. So now this historical journey, which is obviously, now there's no clear dates known for Moses. It's supposed to be somewhere in the first, second millennia BCE, but Abraham is considered to be far, far older, and it sort of disappears into prehistory and myth. They get merged over there. But it is definitely considered to be very old. And something which is so much older has also not been forgotten. It has been repeatedly referred to in the relevant literature. So something which happened so old, if it has been referred to in the literature, something which happened so recently, why will it not be referred to in the literature? And in this way, the whole idea of Aryan invasion theory is untenable. But beyond this, we may wonder, okay, is this just the theory of some people who came up with some idea? How does it matter to us? Yes, it matters because it was a theory which was used to rule India and which was used to deprive India of the credit that was due to it for its ancient civilization. So the credit for India's ancient civilization, for the glory of ancient Indian civilization, was given to some mysterious Aryan race who came from elsewhere, and not that it was Indian race itself which did this. And so the glorious accomplishments of India's ancient past were the part, or were the accomplishments of those of the Vedic followers who lived in India itself. So it is India's claim to glory which has been denied by the Aryan invasion theory. And unfortunately, this theory has become politicalized. So Indian nationalist parties have tried to assert that this theory is right. And because they've tried to assert that this is right, in order to reclaim India's national glory, so immediately those scholars who have tried to support this theory have been dubbed as right-wing scholars, right-wing nationalists. And by the debate shifting from neutral historical examination of data, neutral intellectual examination of the historical data, to the political reframing of the debate. Now the lines have become much more hardened. And although the evidence for the Aryan invasion theory is practically non-existent, and whatever is existent is crumbling, but still, because many historians feel that we do not want to support a right-wing nationalists, so they often don't identify with or support this theory. And those historians who identify with this theory, immediately they are labeled as right-wing nationalists. And they are said, it is because you are because of your bias, so you are interpreting this theory, you are interpreting the data in this way. But of course, over a period of time, evidence will triumph, and the Aryan invasion theory will be exhibited as, will be exposed to be insubstantial for what it is. Now, this is being used even now for another purpose. Christian missionaries, especially in South India, are using the whole idea of Aryan invasion theory to promote their own Christian conversionist idea. How? They try to prove that the Dravidians who originally lived in India, and who they said you are the real Indians, and they say that actually your beliefs, your culture was very similar to the Christian culture. And these Aryans who came, they deprived you of your culture and they imposed their foreign culture in India. So to create a division within Hinduism, by which the Dravidians were also part of Hindus. Now there is definitely some difference between the Dravidian culture and the rest of the culture of India. But that sort of diversity we find everywhere in India. That does not mean that they were two different cultures, one higher and one lower, or one of the invaders and one of the invaded. There was diversity within India itself. So by using this, the Christians are saying now Christianity will help you to find your original cultural glory back. So the Dravidians are being told that if you convert to Christianity, then you are actually not being unfaithful to the original culture, but you will be faithful to your original culture. And in this way, the Aryan invasion theory is being used to disconnect Dravidians from their national and religious roots by making them believe that their roots are somewhere else. And of course, now this Aryan invasion theory is also being reframed in casteist terms. So it said that the Aryans who came in, they attributed themselves to themselves the higher castes, Brahmins and Kshatriyas, and those Indians who were originally ruling India, Dravidians, or living in India, they attributed to them the lower castes. And in this way, those who were original Indians, this is the interpretation of the Christian conversionists, that you who were the original residents of this land, you were given a third class and fourth class status in this country because of this foreign religion of Hinduism which came to India. So if you reject this religion, then you are not rejecting something which is native, you are rejecting something which is foreign. And because the original culture, original Indian religion, that is the Dravid religion, is similar to Christianity, by embracing Christianity, you will be actually returning to your roots. And you will be able to reject the caste-based discrimination, which is foreign to you. So, of course, this may seem very complex and bizarre to some people, but there are many Christian scholars who believe that their agenda to convert, their right to convert, which they get from the Bible, gives them a right to do whatever it takes to convert people. And if that means reinterpreting history to support their own vested interests, then they feel all is right for the sake of God. Of course, their idea of God is only is Christian God. And in this way, they do reinterpret history. So the Aryan invasion theory needs to be countered both for protecting the national integrity of India, for helping India to reclaim, and also for helping India to reclaim its national and spiritual and literary and cultural glory, which is due to it for the magnificent cultural accomplishments that have been there as a part of the as described in the Vedic and other literature. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so you heard what he said when he said about the Christian control. You got to convert all of this stuff. This is a movement to control everybody under a religious I don't even know what to say. It just blows my mind. It's like, you know, they're just trying to control us. And so we know that we have one creator and all this other stuff is pagan. But I had Googled something because I'm gonna go into one more thing where they're showing the difference between your Aryans and your Dravidians. Okay, so I had just looked up. Let me see what I looked up because I had did it on my phone. I think I just put Dravidian people because I want you to see something, and you're gonna see how everything is whited out. And people are going to keep on believing that this is not happening. This has happened. And I'm not going to call them white again. Your Indic people have made white supremacy all over the world. So here are your Dravidian people. Looks a lot like your Afro people today. So I'm just going to go into what they look like. Look like people today. Look at them. These are your Dravidian people. So these are your original people before the invasion. These are your original people before the invasion. You got some dark-skinned ones. You got some red-colored ones. You see? They were a black people. They are Afro people. Okay, so let's see. And we have a couple of history about it, but now I'm going to go into your Aryan people that took over the land. Let's see the difference. I think I put it right because it blew my mind. So here's your Aryan race. And you're going to see the difference. What do you see? What happened to your Afro-Dravidian people? Where are your Dravidian people? Everybody looks like a European type of people. Or look at this. There's your Persian type people. Look like the Middle Eastern type people. So I just saw this and it was real interesting. It says warlike people that migrated into river valleys from Central Asia, fair-skinned, subdued non-Aryan people of North India, established a new language in India, Sanskrit, wrote the Vedas or something. Okay, so I just wanted to just show that because they have really whitewashed everything. And if you don't believe it, it's written in plain sight right now. Everything is coming out for a reason. And we have more people that are exposing the truth because what they have done to all of our people all over the lands of the world, not just in America, is everywhere. Like I said, you got your Afro Spanish people, you got your Afro-Irish people, you got your Afro-Belgian people, you got your Afro-Portuguese people, you got your, I'm telling you, Afro, everybody was a melanated brown, black, light brown person. Everybody, till they took us out of our prospective lands. And I have a theory that they put us, and Lex Will had that same theory, but I have to see how I can come up with this theory that they took everybody out their lands, placed us in that land of Africa, which I had just seen. They said Africa is really on the top, and Europe is at the bottom. I don't know, But you know, we working with Satan, satanic people, where it's a so above, as above, so below. Everything is upside down. Everything is twisted around. So I wouldn't put it past them that they're showing us a map and a globe that is not even the real map or globe. But again, I have to do more research on that because it's hard to kind of for people to see this, because we've been programmed to believe that Africa is at the bottom, we come from Africa, this and that. But I never felt like that was right in my heart. But I'm not going to keep on going into a rant. So let me go into I'll go into the difference between your Aryans and your Dravidians. So this is a video. I don't think it's too long. No, it's not. And it just tells you some things about some things about the difference between them, and you'll clearly see
Aryans vs Dravidians.
Here we go.
People living in North India have been referred to as Aryans, and those belonging to South India have been labeled as Dravidians for the last many centuries. How and when this division of Indian people came along is questionable and indeed full of anomalies. The fact that there are differences in skin color as well as language has made people believe in this dichotomy, which was planted by British to divide Indian people so as to be able to rule over them easily. It suited the interests of the British to divide Indians on the basis of their racial affiliations, and they cleverly divided Indians into two distinct races, saying Dravidians are those living in south of India. They said that Dravidians are the original inhabitants of the country, and they lived in all parts of the country till Aryans arrived in the country from the north and pushed Dravidians downwards in the country so that they remained confined in the south while the Aryans dominated the north and central India. Indians were made to believe that North Indians are descendants of Aryans while South Indians are the descendants of Dravidians. The fact that there is a vast difference in terms of language, culture, art, and clothing besides food habits between tribes living in North India and those living in South India helped in confirming this differentiation of races as suggested by the British. Caste system in India is believed to have originated with the arrival of the Aryans, who chose the classes of Brahmins, priestly class, Kshatriyas, rulers or kings, and Vaishyas, businessmen, and left the lowly category of Sudras, untouchables, for the Dravidians and the descendants of Aryans that were a result of cross between Aryans and the local Dravidians. In fact, there are many stories in Indian folklore where wars between fair-skinned Aryans and dark-skinned Dravidians have been described. But the fact that the date of Aryan invasion of India is around 1500 BC belies these stories, as most of the events in Hindu religion have taken place much before this date. For centuries, we believed that Aryans were aliens who invaded India coming from Iran and southern Russia. They crushed Dravidians and pushed them downwards and into mountains and forests. However, this division of Indians into Aryans and Dravidians is not valid and proper, as is evident from recent findings that archaeologists have brought to light. The epic wars of Ramayana, where Aryans fought with devils of the south, and then Mahabharata, the epic battle between Pandavas and Kauravas, are believed to have taken place at least 7,000 years ago, which is much earlier than the probable date of Aryan invasion. It is possible that European scholars who subscribe to the dichotomy of Aryans and Dravidians failed to see the use of the word Arya, which comes from Sanskrit language, and means the pure or good. Swastika, which is the symbol adopted by the Nazis in Germany and claimed as their own, is found in Hindu scriptures and credited with Arya tribes living in ancient India much before Aryans invaded India.
Okay, so this is another theory. I was gonna show it, but I think we get the picture on that. But I do want to show this part where it says, "Who are the Aryans?" Now this guy has the worst music ever. So I'm going to mute. Wait a minute, I did it wrong. What did I do?
Aryans vs Dravidians.
Sorry. I'm going to mute it. The music is awful. Okay, so here we go. So this is a theory on like I was telling you about the Persians and your Afghan people. But so just look at it. Okay. So you're seeing in different roots and things like that. So it said, who are the Aryans? So it's like all these speculations, I guess, since it's like a mystery of who these people are. So this guy is showing, I guess, all of the different theories of who they could possibly have been and where they came from. But you're going to see. So it's saying they are blue blood and they got noble birth. Look what it says. They are similar to reptiles. They say Queen Elizabeth and them are reptilians. So this is telling you something right here. This is a tainted blood. Tainted blood, tainted DNA, they tainted. They're barbarians and they just, you know, the history is plain. It's not nothing that I'm just saying. It's right in plain sight, you know. They've done this to us, the Indians over there in that land, you know, your Dravidians, your Irish people that were black, everybody. I mean, the list goes on. And like I said, I've been trying to research the different invasions and stuff so that I can expose how they whitewash everything. So it's telling you the Aryans are Iran, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, okay, so, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna be done with this video, but I just wanted to point out that this has been going on, and I'm going to be doing a video about the native cultures and different things like that, but I didn't want to put that in this video because I want to have everything like compiled in like separate videos. But I just wanted to just, you know, let it be known these Aryan people are not the original inhabitants of the land, just like you know, everything else. They're not the inhabitations of the land. And so, you know, again, another lie. These are imposters. The same way, just like over in Israel. Imposters in the land. We have imposters. These people are imposters. They want to be something that they're not. And it's very sad. It's very, very sad. And I'm just going to just show you one thing, because don't take my word for it. Here go your Afro-Welsh people. There's your Afro-Welsh people. And, you know, I'm going to show you your your Afro-Irish people. I'm going to show you how everything has been whitewashed. Here go your eye. Look at him with his pretty eyes. Your Afro-Irish people, look at her. She got the red hair, but she's clearly of an Afro descent. Show you your what was the Afro-Danish people? They are beautiful. The Afro-Danish people. Here go your Afro-Danish people right here. And everything has been whited out, like I said. But I'm gonna do more videos on that later on, because it's so much information and why this stuff had to happen and what's really going on. Whited out, white supremacy, and look at that. he's a Scot in Scotland, Afro people in Scotland. Look at her, Afro people in Scotland. So you can't take my word for it. It's written in plain sight. But I think I'm going to be ending this now. And so I hope that y'all understand what's going on. They have taken these lands, your European, your Spaniards, your British people, your Greeks, your Romans, which, you know, in the Roman Empire, it was Afro people. You know, it was Afro-Roman people. Lex Will has a video on it. So I just wanted to just point this out, and he motivated me in Hiram Art and Ezekiel 37 and Sister Warrior. I mean, it's people out here that's doing the work, trying to expose people for what they are, and they are crafty, which the Bible tells us they are some crafty people, and you will be deceived if you don't do the research for yourself. I'm gonna also leave a link of this book that it's a PDF book, but it tells you how King James, he you know, the person that gave us the Bible and gave it to the translated and gave it to the slaves and to people, you know, all over the world, how they came over and invaded America, how they came over and took the lands from the native Indians. And so I'm gonna leave a link, and you have to click on the link, and then you go down and you can just download the PDF onto your phone or your tablet or your computer. And I'm telling you, it's some good information. Yes, it's long, it's 796 pages, but it's good information. You'll understand everything about this whole world and why these things happen. So again, I'll be doing more videos like this. Not going to be doing so much into preaching this word. And, you know, this book is just history. It's information to get us to where we need to go, to get us to see the truth and what really happened. We got one creator that we serve. You know, one creator that we serve. And that's what it's about. It's not about paganistic holidays. And, you know, it's not about the Savior, because we have one Savior, and the Bible tells us this. And it said in Isaiah 11, I believe it's Isaiah 11, it said, I will give you a sign, and she will, you know, have a virgin, it will be a virgin that will bring on a child. But it never once said that this was our Savior. And see, that's what people fail to realize. And Lex Will, he pointed that out to me, and when I saw that, I was like, oh wow, it's a sign. It was just a sign. He did not say, and I think it's Isaiah 11, and if I'm wrong, I know it's in Isaiah, but it says, I will give you a sign, and I don't think it's Isaiah 11. Hold on, let me just show this right fast. Because I want y'all to see how these people have truly had us to worship pagan gods. And so much more. You know, man, my finger hit the thing. Okay, so I just want y'all to see. Okay, so it's Isaiah 7:14. Isaiah 7:14 says, give you a sign, behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Now, when we look at the word Emmanuel, I want y'all to see something, because in Matthew, they tell us Emmanuel is God with us. Okay, and so look right here. Wow. Look what this word is really telling you. It says Emmanuel. But then when you click on this word El, which we have been using Elohim and all that, but it says, look, false gods, demons, imaginations. Wow. Mighty one, hero. It don't say that he is our savior. You see what I'm saying? And so we've taken this word that they've given us from the New Testament and have applied it to our Old Testament, and was like, oh, well, Jesus, we supposed to worship him and all this. No, it was a sign. We got one creator, one that does everything. For he said, you know, there is no savior but me. And the Bible tells you this. And you know, you don't have to take my word for it. It's in plain sight, you know. But you have to research these things to get the understanding, to get the truth. And if you don't research these things, you're not gonna understand what's really going on. And so I just wanted to point that out. And it was another something that I wanted to point out real fast. Let me see, because he said it. He said, there's no other savior but me. And of course, that didn't come up. Let me see. I know it's in Isaiah. I believe it's Isaiah. Because that's when he was saying, why isn't that? I don't think I'm spelling it right. Let me see. It's spelled it wrong. I don't know why. Like I can't remember how to spell Savior. Let me see. Hold on. I just want y'all to just, no, that is Facebook. I don't know why it's not coming up. Okay, it's Isaiah 43:11. So let me see. Don't come up by this one. I was going to get to Isaiah right fast because I want y'all to see something. The many lies that we've been told. And so you have to know. It says right here. And then it says right here. So we have Isaiah 43:11 said, I am. I don't like even saying that word because everything is pagan. The creator. And beside me, there is no savior. I have declared and have saved. And I have showed when there was no strange God among you. Therefore ye are my witnesses, said the creator, that I am the creator. And see, so it's telling you, but you'll have to, you know, really pray on and meditate to get the understanding, research for yourself that this was all a movement. They took our history and made it a religion. And so that's what it is. That's the truth. And for those that reject the truth, I pray that you receive the truth. Until next time, shalom. I love y'all and open y'all minds to the truth. And I'm gonna leave the link for the book. All right, till next time. Love y'all.